Hi, I'm Aaron. What do hammers have to do with rats and Santa Claus? Let's find out.
John B. Watson was the psychologist that popularized behaviorism. Specifically, he founded methodical behaviorism, and as its name suggests, this field of study focuses on following a strict methodology to understanding the behaviors of humans and animals. This was developed in contrast to introspective methods and depth psychologies like Freud's psychoanalysis. Watson had felt that these fields of study were unreliable in making predictions, and that there was inherent biases in practicing something like introspection to influence behaviors or patterns. So, quite the scientist, he favored measurable and observable behaviors. And while that is all well and good, it is in his major contribution to education that we find Watson's most controversial act, the Little Albert experiment. While it's considered to be one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology, let me go ahead and fill you in on how this went down. Watson wanted to apply the classical conditioning idea introduced by Pavlov towards behaviorism. The idea was that he would be able to condition an infant to have an emotional response to a once neutral stimulus by pairing that neutral stimulus, or something that by itself wouldn't cause any sort of response, with an unconditioned stimulus, or something that would already elicit a response from the infant. So Watson and his grad student assistant named Rosalie Rayner, who he actually had an affair with, yikes, got a 9-month-old named Albert, who was the son of a nurse who worked at Johns Hopkins University, which is where they were doing their research. With their test subject ready, they did some baseline testing. They showed Albert a bunch of different stimuli like a fluffy cute bunny, a white rabbit, different masks, and even a monkey. Albert didn't react to any of these, so the pair decided that the white rat would be a good neutral stimulus for their test. So you may be wondering what makes this experiment controversial. Sounds like they're just vaguely playing with a baby, right? Well, here's the answer to your curiosity. They then sat Albert down, set up a big steel bar behind him, and started striking it with a hammer. Surprise, surprise, this was the unconditioned stimulus that they chose to use in the experiment. Every time that they rattled Albert's entire 9-month-old body with the intense and sudden volume of hitting the bar, he cried and justly displayed fear. They then introduced the white rat. Several times, over many sessions, that's right, the infant was brought back more than once into this ghastly testing. They would strike the steel bar every time that the baby curiously reached for that white rat. To no surprise to anybody at all, of course now, I guess, Albert started to show signs of fear at seeing the rat. What's more, the sight of other white and fluffy objects like the rabbit or the Santa Claus mask that they had on hand made Albert cry and feel afraid. So there you have it. What's messed up is that this is a story of success. Watson proved that emotional reactions can be conditioned and legitimized behaviorism by clearly presenting that the environment around a person or animal will contribute to their behavior. I would have probably used a positive stimulus to condition Albert to have positive reactions to rats and all things white and fluffy, but I'm not Watson. I suppose we could also take away from the experiment how important it is to have ethical standards. There wasn't any follow-up for Albert after the experiment to see how it impacted his growth and development. But does anyone sincerely think that he grew up without a phobia of rats? Or at least one instance of heart-sinking fear at the sight of one? I don't think so. And he, being an infant, couldn't consent to what happened to him. Still, you can't argue that Watson didn't leave an impact on psychology or on the field of education. I think we would all benefit from thinking of this experiment and, well, basically doing the opposite that he did. Thanks for watching.